Coming up on Smart Tech today, Matthew Casanelli and I talk about how one man's wearable saved him after he fell through the ice. We also talk about Apple celebrating International Women's Day and Women's History Month, as well as some improvements to HomeKit and notifications. We also talk about humidifiers, quite a bit about humidifiers, if I'm honest. Some follow-up in the Google realm and Amazon's Halo Fitness Tracker. Before we round things out with questions and our picks of the week. Stay tuned.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of Smart Tech Today is brought to you by Hover. Whether you're a developer, photographer, or small business, Hover has something for you to expand your projects and get the visibility you want. Go to hover.com/twit to get 10% off your first purchase of any domain extension for the entire first year. And by SanDisk's Data Storage Solutions. Check out their iXpand Flash Drive Lux or Ultra Dual Drive Lux today and get 15% off your first order of the featured SanDisk products at sandisk.com/smart. Welcome to Smart Tech Today, where we explain the exciting, the dynamic, and the sometimes confusing subject that is the Internet of Things. I am one of your hosts, Micah Sargent.
And I am your other host, Matthew Casanelli. And you did the
Don't
echo
worry.
Again.
I know. I don't know why. I think, actually, no, I'm not going to say I don't know why. I know why I did it this week. It's because my camera's in slightly a different position. So come with me on this trip through my mind. My camera's in a slightly different position. And when we were on the one shot, there we go. Yeah. I could see the Amazon Echo behind me. And so my brain said Echo, and then my mouth did the Echo, and that's why. But it's not going to be a thing that I keep up this time. And so we'll just get right into the show because we've got a lot to talk about. And this first one is a bit of an icebreaker.
Oh gosh, wow.
Tell me.
What a
tell
transition.
Me what's going on.
A man almost, I think it's still morbid. That's why I'm laughing. There's a man who fell through the ice in Somersworth and then was rescued because he called his Apple Watch and could barely get out. So sorry, that's why I'm like, icebreaker.
For folks out there listening right now, what Matthew is doing is called awkward laughter. And this is, if I can put on the psychology hat for a second, an actual defense mechanism that some people have. If you ever see somebody laughing at a funeral, don't shame them. Chances are it is their brain that is causing them to laugh, to basically work against the anxiety and the discomfort and all of the other things that one feels when they are at a funeral. And essentially it is just grief presenting itself in a different way. So my less than tactful, less than tactful transition was what made Matthew uncomfortable.
I'm laughing at your choice to use that.
But the story here, I think, is I mean, yeah, there's no joke when it comes to falling into the ice. I think anybody knows that can quickly lead to death. And frankly, it doesn't even have to be an ice thing. It can just be the ocean itself. If you get into a place that's too cold, your body starts to shut down. So it's really scary falling in the ice in general. This was in New Hampshire that this person fell into the ice and used the emergency features to call on his Apple Watch. And so it says the person is an ice skating teacher and was in the water for several minutes without being able to get out of the hole. And although he was trying not to panic, he describes the feeling of sinking into the freezing water as terrible. Because that is exactly the point, is that you fall into cold enough water and your muscles start to shut down and there's not a whole lot that you can do. So he actually used his voice to ask the watch to call 911 and said, I probably have 10 minutes before I'm not going to be able to respond anymore. And it took only 5 minutes. Wow, man, I need to live in New Hampshire if that's the response rate. 5 minutes for the firefighters to get there. So even though his body wasn't able to move, to hit the side button on his Apple Watch, he was able to use his voice to say, call 911, that's incredible. I'm glad that, I don't care if it's an Apple Watch or it's a Google Android Wear device, whatever it is, if you can use it to help you in a situation like this, I think it's incredible.
Yeah, exactly. That's why those are so good. And it's like not even just the fall feature. He could just, it like didn't necessarily detect that because of that situation. But I was thinking that's why you want these waterproof also. So that's always an amazing story.
Absolutely. Also, it is, it was International Women's Day. It is Women's History Month here actually, I think it's international at this point now. And so Apple is celebrating the month with some great apps in the App Store, some different features across the ecosystem. We talked a little bit about this on iOS Today last week. Some of the features that you will be able to get, including a women's health study that is taking place in the Research app. Go ahead if you wanted to talk about that.
Oh, no, I was just going to say I thought that was like the most interesting bit that has come out recently too around that, is that the app by actually tracking the different measurements, or I don't know what you call it, analyzing the symptoms and things like that through the Research app. Apple's just published more trends about the types of symptoms that people experience, that women experience, or people who have who menstruate, and then. So it's sort of, I think, an interesting, probably common symptoms that affect many people. But then the point is to sort of remove that stigma and help people be aware, especially for some of the more intense ones. Like they were saying cycle irregularity, extreme pain, or ovarian cysts can always be hard to detect and things like that. So this is the kind of information that is incredibly useful to gather. And especially through smart devices, we've talked about this in the past, that is just enabling these huge scale studies that otherwise would be impossible to do. So it's good news coming out of Apple there.
Yep, agreed. And then you could also check out the other stuff, including an Apple Watch event. And as I said, with the App Store, lots of different apps created by women and different content available in these different places. Moving right along to talk about to be notified when your Apple Watch is fully charged. This was something that I actually find very handy, because there are times where I might have to be doing something where I don't want to be wearing my Apple Watch for it. Like it might require my wrists to get messy or something like that. And so in those cases, there are times throughout the day where I'll put my Apple Watch on the charger, and getting the little notification that lets me know, hey, that's ready to go. It's not only good as a notification to say that my watch is charged, but also as a reminder that I'm not wearing it in the event that I forget. So I can kind of go and put it back on.
That's pretty easy. But basically, John Gruber wrote on his website, Daring Fireball, that he didn't realize what had happened, because he has review units and everything like that. And so when he switched it out, he just wasn't getting those anymore. And basically the requirement is that you have to have the sleep feature set up in the Health app. And I think it's even if you disable it, or that's in the Health app of the watch, but if it's disabled on the phone at all, it just won't show up. And so it's kind of odd that it's like, it makes sense. They mostly think that you want to get that notification so that you can recharge your watch before you go to bed and then put it back on as you use the sleep tracking. But it is kind of like, if you just choose not to use that, you won't ever get these notifications. And so he argues in the piece, they should move this just into a feature that's not related to the sleep features. And then anybody can benefit from it, just because I do the same thing. It's like you take off your watch and you charge it, and it's like 4 hours later and you're like, oh, I didn't even, like, you just happen to not notice it or something like that. And it's like, oh, I didn't get any credit for all of the activity or like getting out. So I think this is a good feature that they should improve. And if you aren't getting these, make sure to turn on the sleep feature. Do you use that? Yep. Do you like sleep with your watch or anything?
I don't sleep with my watch on, because I've got a sleep tracker in my bed. So,
nice. Which one?
The Beautyrest. I think it's called the Beautyrest sleep tracker. I'm sure Kevin will be pulling up an image here very soon.
I was going to say it's in my history, so you must have told me about it before.
Yeah, I think I chose it as a pick of the week one time. Beautyrest Sleep Tracker Monitor, which it has these 2 paddles that go underneath your mattress, and then it automatically tracks your sleep. So that, because even though it's one of those practice what you preach kind of things, or do as I say, not as I do kind of things, where I will admit there are times where I am in bed and it's not me sleeping, or doing other things that you're supposed to do in bed, but it is instead, me just, I don't want to get up yet. And I'm just sitting there browsing through my phone or whatever. And that's the problem with other sleep tracking systems, is if you have to tell it, hey, I'm going to bed, and then you don't start to go to bed whenever you tell it, or even if it's one that's automatic, but it assumes that once you're laying down in bed and it feels you lay down in bed, that's the start of you going to sleep. Those ones don't work for me because I am, what's the word I'm looking for? Mercurial and vacillating. And so it's not the case that I'm going to immediately go to bed whenever I lay down or whenever I get up. And this not only makes it so that I don't have to remember to tap, hey, I'm going to bed right now, or hey, I'm done sleeping right now. It does it automatically, but it also knows the difference between just like sitting in bed versus actually sleeping, because it uses what it knows about heart rate, respiration, and all of that stuff, and how it relates to your sleep cycles. So that's why I very much like this device. And it also has been one of the most accurate of any sleep trackers that I've used. So yeah, I'm not big on the watch because, well, at this point, it's only because I don't need double or triple data. I only need one set of sleep tracking data. And if I were to use the Apple Watch as well, it would run up with that and potentially be different. So it's just easiest for me to put it on my watch or on the charger at night, and then be able to wake up in the morning and have it charged, and just let the Beautyrest do the work.
Yeah, nice. That's less than $100 too. So that's pretty solid. I have that same problem. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say as well, if you sleep with a partner, this is another reason, whether you sleep alone or you sleep with a partner, you can use this device because it has 2 paddles, and you set up each side of the bed, and each person gets a different account. You kind of like invite the person to use the app, and then they get their sleep information and sleep score. You get yours. But if you just, sleep alone, then you can set it to just track yours. And I don't so much anymore because I don't sleep alone. But when I did, my dogs would sleep with me, and I never had an issue with the dogs affecting the sleep stuff. So it knows the difference between animals, because you actually answer that question as you go through it. So it knows that you have animals. And I imagine a Chihuahua's heart rate is far faster than mine and respiration rate. So
I'm imagining too. I mean, it gets logged to the health app because for some reason I was like, oh, it's not HomeKit, but why would you need it to be? And also, you can have the sleep and awake stuff as personal automations and shortcuts now. So you could do some pretty cool stuff based off of like it knows you're awake and all that. I mean, that sounds creepier, but I have the same problem where I have overlapping data because I use auto sleep, and then it's just based off of when I'm wearing my watch or not, which is usually, I think, and also during the day, because I don't think it thinks I'm asleep. But I have that problem where I'll like take a nap and it won't realize. And I have a bad habit of, I do take a decent amount of naps. And so I was like, I wonder if I'm actually, like, it has a whole sleep debt calculation. And I was like, if I added in all of those naps, especially on the weekend, it's like, maybe I would be caught up. So I guess I'm not going to have a sleep monitor on like the little couch behind me. That would be so extra. I love it. That sounds like something I would do.
Maybe. Let's see. What else?
I love this next one.
Tell me about this.
Josh Centers,
especially the headline.
Improve your seed starting with HomeKit. I thought that was funny. It took me I was like, wait, what? But it's how he's growing plants indoors using HomeKit with, I guess I didn't really realize that you could use LEDs I mean, that makes sense. I don't know.
I know. Same, but, Matthew. Sorry to interrupt, but I just want to jump on that. I had not considered that it's all about light wavelength because of course I consider it when it comes to, do I want my lights set to 2000 Kelvin or 5000 Kelvin or 6000, whatever. But I had not considered that plants, they don't care if it comes from the sun or it comes from an LED light. All they care is that it's the right wavelength to make it easy for the chlorophyll to absorb. And exactly. I never thought that you could just use LEDs. And it's funny, when I first learned that, I was still kind of looking at it like, are you sure though? And after I read into it more, then I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that actually totally makes sense. But I'm right there with you.
Yeah, it's like for some reason, like obviously people grow plants indoors with different types of grow lights, but something about LEDs seems like you're hacking the system, because it is like, he's like, it's a very efficient way to do it. And part of what he does is use the Eve energy and different HomeKit controls to turn on the lights for him. So he just never even has to manage it at all. And I was like, that's awesome. Especially just being able to track the amount of energy that you're using at the same time using the app is smart. So I thought this was cool. It's like, I want to grow my own plants indoors with HomeKit stuff too, just to do it. But he might have some pepper and tomato seedlings. So cool story linked in the show notes. I don't know why I forgot the word for that.
Down in there where
I was going to say the description. I've been making YouTube videos. So.
Hi, I'm Matthew Casadelli. Subscribe and rate, and don't forget to ring the bell. Right?
Supposedly it makes a big difference, according to Renee, at least.
Ring that bell, baby. All right, let us move on to talk about, I don't know why I said baby. Anyway, VOCOlinc's HomeKit Humidifier. This is, yes, the first HomeKit humidifier in North America is here. And I'm already going to tell you, I don't think you should get it. But tell me about iMore's rating and review of the HomeKit humidifier.
Interesting. I don't know why you said it. So I mean,
I'll explain afterward. I was going to say
you're the expert on this. So to me, it's like it's a humidifier, and it's got interesting colors that you can set with it too to kind of make it a more visual piece. But I just want to know what your take is.
So almost always ultrasonic humidifiers are not a good idea. So there are two kind of major categories. There are technically three, but let's go with the two major categories of humidifier. There's the ultrasonic humidifier, which basically uses a speaker inside that sends out pulses of sound that break up the water into little tiny particles and then blow it out into the air. So that's those ones where you can see the mist, and they typically call these humidifiers cool mist humidifiers. And because those were so popular and were tied to health and wellness for so long, oftentimes doctors would say, oh, you just need a humidifier while you're dealing with this, et cetera, et cetera. And there was logic and reason for that. But because it was tied to health for so long, people started to think that if the humidifier didn't show you like a mist cloud, then it wasn't working or it wasn't the best that you could have. But the other type is an evaporative humidifier. And in that case, what happens is you have some sort of wick inside, some sort of device that can take in water, and then a fan that blows the air that has humidity in it because of the wick out into the space and starts to fill the air with humidity. That will typically not have any mist because you're not blowing, you're not breaking those water molecules apart. And I have to be clear here. It's not literally breaking the hydrogen from the oxygen. I mean that it's taking large globules of water and breaking them into smaller pieces of H2O. And then those are easier to transfer in the air. But because you can't see it, then people thought that maybe it wasn't as effective. But the good thing about an evaporative humidifier is that it kind of protects, it kind of by default protects you from oversaturating your air. Because as an evaporative humidifier, if the air is already saturated, then it's not going to put any more water into the air. It's not forcing the water into the air. It's just like when the air gets dry, then some of that water can come out of the evaporative humidifier and help to moisten the space. Versus an ultrasonic humidifier like this one, which is kind of forcing water into the air. And so you get kind of an overdamp. You can get a kind of overdamp situation. The good thing about this one is that it does seem to have a meter. So you can kind of say, hey, I don't want it to over humidify the air past 50% or what have you. But again, if you have a choice between an evaporative humidifier or an ultrasonic humidifier, it's almost always a better case to get the evaporative humidifier, unless in particular situations where you're trying to protect the life of an instrument or something like that. I think that in certain rooms, those humidifiers can be better. But again, then you have to protect the instrument to make sure it doesn't get too wet. And there's all this stuff that is kind of solved just by having an evaporative humidifier. So I wish that they would create an evaporative humidifier as well to basically handle this. But I do like, as it shows on this iMore article, it shows you can set the target humidity, how much mist you want. Go ahead.
It says like the power of the device can't be set through the Home app, of course. So it's like it will try to get to 50%, but it can't also like switch the volume of how much it's setting out, probably just because of the way they have to like pick one or something like that. And so you could use the third-party apps to manage that part, but they're like, it's just kind of a pain in the butt at that point. So I think that's also worth mentioning. But would the evaporative one, this is my like noob brain going here, but would it still be able to detect the levels and things like that in the same way because of the difference in how it's operating? Or
no, that's the other thing is that, well, I shouldn't say that
like
because if you can get an evaporative humidifier that has a built-in, what is it called? A humidistat, I think. Humidistat. No, that's not it. A humidistat is the thing that you connect to AC to add it. But basically something that can detect the humidity in the air, a humidity sensor, and then use that to put water into the air. So you could, in theory, buy an evaporative humidifier that has one of those built in, or you can do what I did, which is my evaporative humidifier has a physical knock where you can change the fan between 1, 2, and 3. You put it on 1 or 2 or 3 if it's really dry, and you plug it into a smart switch that has an automation set up for when the humidity reaches 50%, turn off that switch, or when the humidity reaches 38%, turn it on. Also, I'm learning now about, thanks to Scooter X in the chat, something called a centrifugal humidifier, which is an old school style humidifier that I had never heard of before. And it does. I wish I could figure out, it's a very commercial. It's showing very industrial and sometimes uses it in greenhouses. Anyway, there it is.
Nice.
Small yet sturdy humidifier that uses a spinning disc to atomize water and transform it into millions of very small droplets that are blown by a built-in fan. So it works on the same principle of an ultrasonic humidifier in the sense that it's a different system that is breaking the water into tiny little droplets, but it is doing the same thing that the ultrasonic humidifier does. Very cool. This all led to a really interesting conversation about humidifiers.
Yeah,
I hope that it's interesting to all of you out there. But yes, again, just be careful with ultrasonic humidifiers that you don't oversaturate your space, because that's when things start to get moldy, mildewy, germy, and bad.
Yeah, gross. Well, interesting. As usual, you know way more about humidifiers than me, but that's exactly why I love it. That's very helpful. Well, I guess, should people avoid these kinds of humidifiers then?
it's not that you should avoid them because this is the other problem.
Just be more careful.
They are far more widely available than other humidifiers. You can go into CVS and get a Cool Mist humidifier, for not very much money, a lot faster than you can find an evaporative humidifier. So it's not that you should avoid them. It's just that you should use them with care, being aware that it can very easily oversaturate the space. So if you're using one that doesn't have a built-in humidity sensor, then it might be good to get a humidity sensor, separately and know what the humidity is like otherwise. And then, then you start to get uncomfortable too, because you can't sweat as easily if your air is saturated with water. And so it could kind of undo the stuff that you're trying to do in a space with too much humidity in the air.
Okay, fair. Cool.
So am I finally going to get the HomeKit-compatible doorbell that I've been waiting for, Matthew?
I don't know. You tell me. What do you think?
Well, it's here is what I'm getting at.
Fair.
There have been lots of different companies that have talked about making HomeKit-enabled doorbells. Some of them have been released on kind of not the consumer market, but the industrial market. The builder market, and so they cost a lot more money and are not intended for you to just go and pick up at like a Best Buy or not Best Buy. I was thinking Home Depot or something like that. Versus the Logitech Circle View Doorbell, which is kind of one of the first made for consumers doorbells. And in fact, The Verge calls it the closest thing we have to an Apple-made doorbell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, high praise, I suppose. I do like some parts of just that you can get somebody to install it for you if you don't have, but they say you do need the wiring as well. So I thought that was, it's like, I'm out of luck there. I think one of the limitations of a lot of these does become that it's wired. And so even just in the photos, I don't think it looks that great because there's just a cord coming out of the back. And they are talking about it too. It's a very black, like looking piece of technology it's like a tech looking thing outside your home and might not fit into your style. But I do think it's got like pretty solid nighttime vision and HomeKit secure video support. So it's a pretty solid solution. I guess, like you said, it's the only solution if you want something like this. So check it out, I suppose. But I'm glad to see that some of these are on the market and that maybe we'll be able to get more now in the future.
Absolutely. 7.5 out of something on The Verge. I suppose that's 10. They don't give
that's pretty good though.
Full rating, which is interesting. All right, let us take a quick break so I can tell you about the company who has all my money because it's so great. It's Hover. Yes, you guessed it. I buy so many domains because Hover is fantastic and makes it so easy to get them. Look, the new year holds a lot of promise, so you can make plans and let Hover help you achieve them. If you're a blogger, if you're creating a portfolio, if you're building an online store, or maybe you just want to make a memorable redirect to your LinkedIn page or other social media site, Hover has the best domain names and email addresses just for you. Email at your domain name is key to connecting with customers and building trust for your brand. They have domain-based emails for all of your needs, small or large. It's super easy to set up. I've set up some different mailboxes, set up some mailbox forwarding with no problem, and you can add as many mailboxes to your domain as you need. When your domain renews, your mailboxes do too. The prices are unbeatable. Their most popular mailbox is a no-brainer solution for business owners, and you can get access anywhere. Use the email app you're already comfortable with. If apps aren't your thing, well, don't worry because Hover does have webmail that lets you access it wherever you are. I love Hover. I've talked about it before because it really does make things so simple. Oftentimes during a podcast, something will come up that apparently needs to have a domain name and I can go and register it really quickly. But one of my favorite features about Hover is you type something in And even if you can't get the domain that you were looking for, there are so many other suggestions for things that you could get if you want them. And Hover is pretty smart about trying to help you get that figured out. And then after that, I can just pop right through the steps. And by the way, Hover supports Apple Pay, so that makes it even easier for me to buy new domains. As I'm going through, the process just pretty much completes itself by the end of it. It's so easy to use, and honestly, it's so fun to have different domains that are yours. It's better than buying a star. You know how there's that scam about buying a star, but really only that random company is saying, yes, you own this star, and some other company somewhere could sell that same star to somebody else, and then multiple people have certificates all to the same star. This is so much better than that. Don't buy someone a star, buy someone a domain, because then it's theirs and nobody else can have it. And it's true. It's real. So there's my new slogan for Hover. Don't buy a star, buy a domain. Hover is not here to upsell you on stuff you don't need either. They just want to help. So they've got pro-level tools, powerful domain and email management tools that are intuitive and easy to use, whether you're a web pro or you're just getting started. Everything's private and secure with Whois privacy protection included with your domain purchase. Your private information will remain just that, private. It's a great way to reduce spam and protect yourself from unwanted solicitations. And Hover Connect is a great service that lets you pick the service you want to use to build and host your website. Connect helps you start using your domain name with just a couple of clicks. At Hover, you're a customer, not a source of data. Take back control of your data with reliable, tracker-free email. Hover is trusted by hundreds of thousands of customers, myself included, who use their domain names and emails to turn their ideas into a reality. So whether you're a developer, a photographer, or small business, Hover has something for you to expand your projects and get the visibility you want. Go to hover.com/twit to get 10% off your first purchase of any domain extension for the entire first year. That's hover.com/twit for 10% off your domain extension for a full year. And of course, we thank Hover for their support of Smart Tech Today and the Twit Network. Thanks so much, Hover. Alrighty, moving right. By the way, I feel really bad for anybody listening who's ever gotten a star or has ever given someone a star, because I was thinking about doing that one time a long time ago, and then I read into how it's a scam and that there is no like real ruling body that gets to say this star just belongs to this person. So it's a bad thing to do. It's a waste of anyone's money, and I don't want anyone to waste their money. So that's why I had to bring it up. But if you have a star, anyway, sorry.
Put it in your pocket? I don't know.
Forget. Yes, that's perfect, Matthew. That's perfect. Let's talk about making your smart TV not a smart TV and why that's important.
Yeah, exactly. We were kind of just referencing this last week with the Google TV integration that lets you set it up as a dumb TV. But I just saw this article come through after that, and I was like, oh yeah, we should probably mention that part, because it is a lot of smart TVs do what's called automatic content recognition, where I guess they watch your TV as well, and they know what kind of stuff you use it for. And so I think this is one of those things that you kind of just click accept on the terms and conditions, and then they have you plug in your TV to an Ethernet cable or Wi-Fi or something to get the Netflix, and it's not really clear that this is going on. So just as a warning, if you didn't know, you should probably check if you have this set up and then go in and turn it off, because I don't know, TVs don't need this data. I guess it could improve your experience, but this is one of those times where it's like, no, not worth it. So just a good piece of advice in case you didn't know.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are not aware of this, and there have been times where I've attempted to explain this to folks, and they are sort of blah about it, not concerned about it. And I think that, more so, it's almost important to talk about, why this is a privacy concern and why you should wonder about this, because I can't remember if I talked about it on this show. I think it was on iOS Today, that there needs to be, and it may have been on this show, and I apologize if it was, but somebody I guess somebody here at Twit, maybe, I don't know. Somebody needs to make a show that's basically it's like privacy investigators. And what they do is they help those folks that are like, I know Instagram is listening to my microphone. And they tell you, okay, I was doing this, and then suddenly I was getting ads for this on my Instagram account, and I know that Instagram is listening to me. And the job of the person that's hosting the show is to figure out how it actually happened, what it was that actually resulted in that happening. Because there have been multiple times where I've had to help my partner figure out what was going on, or help my mom figure out what was going on, where she was just absolutely certain that Instagram was listening via the microphone to give her these specific ads. And, you track it down, you figure out what it was that actually did that and how these companies are tracking you. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that people know necessarily that their smart TVs are part of this. When you change the channel on a commercial versus keeping it on that channel, when a commercial is on, what content you're watching, for how long there's so much that these companies can pull it's really worth being aware of.
Yeah, agreed. So go turn it off. Go hopefully when everybody gets vaccinated and you can go into your parents' house, go turn it off there also.
Yes, just make sure you get it set up so that they know how to use it.
Yeah.
Motion smoothing.
All of the above.
The Google Assistant is continuing to improve upon integrations for the system, and the latest improvement here is with doorbells, so that you can use the Google Assistant to access some of the features available in smart doorbells.
Yeah, this is kind of there's like a funny line in the 9 to 5 Google article, because they're like, oh, now other companies can make what's basically Google's own Nest Hello doorbell. So making it it isn't exactly a level playing field. And now that they already have their product, it's like, oh, now you guys can add this to Assistant. So I think I want to do more research on what changed this year and why were these kind of doorbells not available through these systems. Maybe it's just the level of security and I guess probably like low power and things like that. But I think that's just kind of an interesting trend across the stories this week. But always good news. They have, like, if you ever want to check out, there's just the full list of every single thing that works with Google Assistant. So they definitely like to go wide with that. Another one also, this next story is a similar type of thing. I just thought this was interesting because I hadn't heard of it, but one of the 9 to 5 Google people has been using the Nexx, it's NEXX is the brand name, NXG200. Love it. The Nexx NXG. But it's just a smart garage controller that you can use and control your smart garage. I guess that's what it would be qualified as at that point. But always good to see different types of products in these areas too, because I don't personally use Google Assistant for this kind of thing, but he's like, I definitely want to get it there. So we do mention HomeKit a little too much. So I want to help out the folks who are looking for that kind of thing.
Absolutely. I think that the smart garage control system from Chamberlain also works with the Google Assistant. That's kind of the more popular one, the MyQ. The reason why I'm looking off into the distance is because I have the box up behind the camera. And that Chamberlain MyQ system works with many of the systems, especially Amazon. But
is there subscription-based? Because I think that's specifically what this is mentioning, that you just buy the product and then it works.
Okay. That's good. So, yeah, that's a really good thing. Cool. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, this is akin to what Apple does with HomeKit, with the HomeKit platform, making sure that the devices that are marketed as works with Apple HomeKit are up to snuff, that they are quality products that are going to work whenever you get them. Google has added some quality guidelines for Assistant-enabled devices. I think this is fantastic.
Yeah, they're basically like, your product has to be a certain amount of like have good timeliness and be reliable. Otherwise, you'll have to remove the works with Google thing by the end of 2021. So I think this is probably in response to, there's just a proliferation of these kind of products in the last few years. And so stuff that starts to get older and older or doesn't, we were just talking about this with HomeKit, but when just one feature isn't supported on one platform or things like that, it can become just a poor user experience. And so they're like, air conditioners have to be able to turn on and off, but also be able to control the fan speed, like we were saying with the humidifier thing. So,
that's really nice.
Yeah, it's pushing the level of, we don't just want dumb smart home stuff. We want smart home stuff.
Amazon or Apple could actually benefit from that one. Not from the rest of it, but from the sort of requiring that the features of the device are as locked, as available within the system as they are within the third-party app. I think that's a really good idea.
Timeliness and reliability too. Like, I will totally admit that a lot of shortcuts integrations and things like that can just fail because they weren't tested super well. So like some sort of, shortcuts is a different area than HomeKit. So HomeKit does have higher standards there. They have the whole badge, but maybe I wish some of the shortcut stuff had high standards as well.
Yeah, that so works with Siri would be a whole nother program that they'd have to do.
Yeah, wow.
You're like, yes, please do it. Exactly. Tell me about the OnePlus Band with Google Fit integration finally.
Yeah, I always want to mention more smart home products because it does sort of feel like there's not a whole, not smart home, wearable, but it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of very strong competition. But OnePlus is a smartphone maker, I guess now beyond that. They've had a wearable since, was it earlier this year? Yeah, okay. And then now it syncs with Google Fit. So that makes sense, especially if you do have all of those Google services still are usually tied into the other smartphone platforms. So making sure that your wearable actually works with everything else is a good call. So worth checking out. OnePlus.
Always a good call there. Now, this next piece is about Alexa conversations. Yes, it's the part of the show where we start spelling out the name of the virtual assistant. This is what ZDNet describes as a deep learning-based dialogue manager that is now available widely to lots of different folks. So it was first introduced in 2019 and basically helps to make conversations with the skills that developers create seem more natural, because natural language, of course, is kind of hard to get figured out. And so the article says, when people speak naturally, they change direction. They make contextual references to things they said, like I did earlier with the Echo, and like I'm doing now, referring to the thing where I referred to the Echo. Sometimes they oversupply information, sometimes they undersupply it, and when that happens, consumers revert to robotic language and simple phrases, and then developers just give up. So with Alexa conversations, developers give Amazon a few sample phrases of their conversations, as well as some APIs that implement the services they're trying to achieve. Then with those samples, the AI can train against that and work out conversation paths that the user might take, which then makes it easier for the developer to figure out how to interact with those conversations. Alexa conversations have worked with, this system has been used by iRobot, but now that it's available for more folks, it is, more companies are making use of it as well.
Yeah. I always forget iRobot is the name of Roomba. Roomba, yeah. The maker, because that's just, I always think of the movie. But
the movie.
Yeah. This is great. Like, this is, I will totally say, is the place that I would only dream of being able to request my shortcuts using proper natural language. That's really Siri shortcuts at that point, because that is one of the things with every shortcut has to be named exactly what you want to trigger it with Siri. And that doesn't really fall into a lot. You do end up having that sort of robotic thing. Or I tried to title them. I like spent a lot of time thinking, what would I actually say when I want to trigger this versus naming it with like a title or something like that. That does remind me too, I just dropped into our show doc that I did read a really good article that was somebody who built what he called the guardrails for the voice experience in Shortcuts. And so he was requesting data in a certain way to log it into the health app. And then he had a if statement so that if you said something that wasn't a number, it would fail or it would re-ask you to enter in the proper number. So I thought that just made me think of this because that kind of thing is automatically detected by other systems, but there are ways if you're building it yourself to add that in. And this kind of thing just improves the whole experience overall and hopefully gets more developers into things like building skills because it's less like cloning the same way you say the same phrase 10 different ways and just let Amazon's intelligent people there figure it out with their whole systems and then can kind of democratize the ability to create skills. So I hope that this keeps getting further and further because that's the thing that every time I've been like, oh, I should totally check out a skill. And then I get in there and they're like, what is every single phrase that anybody could use related to this? And it's kind of like overwhelming. It's like, I don't even know what I'm doing yet. So that's cool.
Yeah. So I'm reading about one of the new tools, which is called ALEXA Entities, which it's a bunch of tools that give access to information about popular entities, including people, places, and things that are available in the ALEXA knowledge graph. With the entities, you can resolve strings, meaning that the strings that get said by customers, those can be resolved to common entities that are available from a built-in catalog so that it kind of like gives you an entry point to help improve upon it. So one example they give is, say a user says, add Alias Grace to my reading list. So a book called Alias Grace. Then it says, got it. Have you thought about reading The Testaments, also written by Margaret Atwood in 2019? And then it can also be used to disambiguate between similarly named entities. So you could say, did you mean Anne Hathaway, born in 1556, or the actress in films such as Les Mis? So that way, if you're talking about one person, it can be aware that there could be the other person that you're talking about. Another example, it says the company Vocala used the entities system to improve their skill Voice Blast, which allows customers to compete against other players to guess celebrity voices. ALEXA's knowledge is used to provide additional facts about celebrities on screen, which complements the spoken response with useful and interesting information. So along with the developer creating this app that did the voice stuff, it was like, okay, but how do we make this more interesting, like while you're playing? And instead of having to code this whole thing to go and find facts about different celebrities, they just use the entities system to do it. Nice. It also says you no longer have to source, acquire, or manage your own catalogs of general information. It's just updated as ALEXA learns new facts, reducing the effort it takes to keep skills up to date. A developer building an educational skill to allow kids to explore an interactive map no longer needs to find a list of the countries with key facts such as population, etc., because it's already available in the knowledge graph. So when a new political leader is elected, the developer doesn't have to manually update the country's facts in their own catalog. They can just make use of the system that is built into ALEXA's voice services. So I think very, very cool improvements here that will makes me want to build a skill. There have been a few times where I've wanted to build a skill, and as they continue to add more stuff, I'm coming closer and closer to wanting to go about doing it.
What if it was a Smart Tech Today skill where we combined our knowledge and made a whole database of all of the stuff that we
answers to common questions or something?
That's actually kind of awesome, but it does sound very difficult also.
A catalog of our picks of the week or something like that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I love it.
Who knows? Who knows what we'll dream up? But I think that's super neat. Let's see. I didn't know that it didn't already have this, and you may not have known either, but the Halo Fitness Tracker did not have ALEXA integration, but it is now getting ALEXA integration.
Yeah, so this is that one that everybody highlighted because it can 3D scan your body and tell you how fat it can measure your fat composition. Sorry. That's just the terrible joke about it, is it's like, I know I wouldn't want that because I wouldn't want to feel that way about myself. So I'm not going to say it about anybody else, but I think this is interesting because now basically that fitness tracker is providing that backbone for the voice experience to be able to just request that data. So I'm not exactly sure what you would, I mean, that's a snarky response to whenever there's a voice activated thing, but you can get that information now just by asking your smart speaker. And it's all, I guess this stuff kind of is nice when it's all in one system as opposed to third-party developers looking into your health data and things like that. But that, in this case, that depends on how much you want Amazon to hold all of that information. So sometimes there are some trade-offs there.
Yes, some rather major trade-offs. So The Verge has a piece. I actually just did this not too long ago. A piece about encouraging folks to audit their ALEXA skills. So basically go in, check what skills you have enabled, check what you've given access to, and turn off things that you don't want them to have access to. And the Verge article also explains how to go about auditing your ALEXA skills.
Yeah, that's like, and especially
Did you do this?
there's, I have not yet because I honestly don't use that many, so I don't think but again, I think that's where the main thing is that, I mean, there's obviously going to be lots of duplicates. And then I think the thing that can be sketchy is just that a lot of services like this launch and maybe like get attention, but then sort of just don't get observed as much at that point. And so they're talking about how some publishers can change the code after they publish it. And so it looks fine, but then maybe it just slips through again. And then there's sensitive data being leaked or something like that. So I think this is always just intelligent to do, though, especially when you're deep into those platforms, because there are security risks. But that's, I think, I mean, it almost like doesn't occur to me because I'm mostly HomeKit based. And so it feels like I don't have to worry about that because there's like no situations where that should happen. So yeah, I don't even know how many I actually have. They've got a link in there and then it's in the skills section and then your skills. Yeah, I only have 22. So, and I reckon, I
don't have many more than
Marvel
that.
Trivia.
Most of mine are smart home related. It's, different smart home products that I have and voice based system that I have tied to it. But I don't really use them. So I could probably turn them off. I just keep them in case I ever do decide, today I feel like talking to ALEXA, to have it turn the vacuum on or something like that.
I'm curious if a box of cats that I have installed is nefarious. And it does look like it has poor reviews because people would try to, it like upgrades you into buying more meow sounds.
I'm sorry, meow sounds? What is this?
It's called box of cats. And then if you say open the box of cats, it starts going, wow, wow.
Oh, yes, a very helpful skill.
I think I unplugged the one that I had in here at some point. So I'm not going to try it now, but because it'll record our conversation and upload it.
I was going to say, I don't want to do it because I don't want to put cats on my Echo speaker back there. I don't think I used to have some little noisemaker ones, but you play with those once and then it's like, okay, I don't need this anymore. I don't need you. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about Amazon Music, which is doing something I think pretty interesting. Some of the services give artists the ability to link to a website or to link out to something else. And you used to be able to share content on some of the music streaming services, but Amazon Music is letting creators sell in-app merch.
Yeah, I thought this is interesting just because, I mean, the article is talking about how versus Apple Music and Spotify, a lot of these services are trying to compete more and more every day. And especially if you are integrating it into your smart home, which one you have set up and which one you choose can make a difference. But some of this is just like a more rounded out experience for interacting with the artist. Like you can buy their t-shirt and things like that. So I think it's always funny too when Billie Eilish does stuff with other companies that aren't Apple, because she's very deeply integrated into a lot of launches that they do. And then it's like,
yeah,
I mean, get that bag, because she's getting it from both companies at the same time, which is awesome. That's like, she's so successful with that. Deserves it too. But now you can get Billie Eilish, Jack Harlow, King Princess, Lady Gaga, and Gucci Mane are their examples. But I have no idea how relevant those artists are to.
I need my Gucci Mane, Gucci belt.
But I think
only
it's
available through Amazon Music.
To support artists individually, especially because a lot of them don't make. Oh, I mean, who knows how much they're taking off at the top of this too, but still having it integrated into the native music experience makes a big difference sometimes.
Yeah, because if that's where the listener is, they may not be as likely to hop out and go to other places. So to have it right there is very handy, I think. Alrighty, let us take another break so that I can tell you about the very, very cool product from SanDisk. This is the SanDisk iXpand Flash Drive Lux and the Ultra Dual Drive Lux. SanDisk, of course, is bringing you this episode of Smart Tech Today. Finding a data storage solution that's compatible across all of your devices can be a challenge because they all have different ports and plugs and things like that. But you don't have to worry about it if you've got SanDisk's easy-to-use data storage solutions. The 2-in-1 flash drives are the perfect way to back up and transfer your files to other devices. And no matter what device you have, SanDisk has you covered. For Android users with a USB-C port, the Ultra Dual Drive Lux allows you to seamlessly transfer data from your devices to your computers. And the iXpand Flash Drive Lux, this thing's super cool. It makes it easy to transfer the data between your iPhone, iPad Pro, Mac computer, and any USB-C devices. So it's got a lightning plug on one side and USB-C on the other, so you can plug it into your phone and get those files backed up, and then boop, pop it into the USB-C port on your iPad and pull those files off. This, of course, comes in multiple sizes, storage sizes, so that you can get the one that's right for you. And I've talked before, I think one of the things that's really cool about this is you may have other methods for transferring files, to the cloud, saving them there, or some other place. But a local backup, a local copy of your files is so incredibly important. And that is one of the things these SanDisk devices do, is that they give you the ability to store these files locally. If you've ever had to tech support someone, or you were yourself the person who was dealing with the not being able to access hundreds and hundreds of photos that you've taken because you forgot a password or you don't have access to the cloud for some other reason, and you're just looking at this device going, I can't get these photos. That's so frustrating. But having them stored locally is great. And then also for people who have ever complained about not having enough storage space on their phone, this is a great way to pull some of those photos off, clear out that space, and give you even more space there. So I think this is fantastic for all of those reasons. A great gift for anybody who you've ever heard say, I'm out of storage. What do I do? Well, get the iXpand Flash Drive Lux or the Ultra Dual Drive Lux to help you out with this. SanDisk offers the best solutions for backing up and transferring your data. And right now, you can get 15% off your first order of the featured SanDisk products, but only when you go to, and I love this URL, sandisk.com/smart. That's SANDISK.com/SMART. Be smart. Go to sandisk.com/smart and get one of these great products to back up your files, your photos, everything else. Thanks so much to SanDisk for sponsoring this week's episode of Smart Tech Today. All righty, Matthew Casanelli, it's time to answer some questions.
All right. This first one is from Steve from Topsham. I forgot what ME stands for.
I'm
not going to guess.
Yeah, I don't remember. Not Minnesota.
You look it up while I read it.
Yeah.
So this question is, I often use ambient sounds. Writing all the way from Mercury. I often use the ambient sounds of the HomePod to help me fall asleep. Unfortunately, when I want to use this feature, my wife has already fallen asleep. Conversing with Siri wakes her up. Is there a shortcut that could be made to select the ambient sound, disable or lower Siri's voice, and set a sleep timer to a particular HomePod from my iPhone? Thanks for any help or guidance you can provide. From Maine, not Mercury. Thank you, Micah. So this is one of those things where not directly, this isn't possible. So the ambient sounds are a Siri feature of the HomePod. And so it is one of those things where you can only trigger it with your voice. And for some reason, you're not able to set it otherwise. But there are some little bits that can help. And this is, I have a story that I wrote a while ago about using home automations to set Siri's volume to a specific level every night. So it's basically every night at 10 p.m. you just in the little slider thing, you set it all the way as low as it can go, and then it will just turn on for you every night, and then turn up in the morning also if you set that. So this is one of those ones that I set, and I've literally never ever thought about it again because it just always works.
Nice.
I really do wish that Siri had a separate volume level from the music volume, because I get that even just if you could control it at night, or if it just had a quiet mode, I think that's what's just silly, is it should have something like this automatically. But especially I had, at least the HomePod Mini solves that a little bit by default being quieter, but the main HomePod is pretty much at night. If you ask it anything, even at the minimum volume, still probably will be just loud enough to somebody can hear it in the other room. I do use white noise, and so that is one of the main reasons I can just barely get away with it, is because that covers the sound, even though I still feel every time I cringe because it sounds like it's blasting through the house or something like that. So definitely at least try setting it up and lowering it and see if that can help. The sleep timer part, I actually missed that part of the question originally, and I don't think you can set that with HomePod, but you can set it to play any different type of ambient sound. That was one of the things, actually, here, I'll put it up. I put it at the bottom of these questions, but I just realized it goes with this one, is we mentioned on the show a couple of weeks ago, or I can't remember. I've done so many things. I can't remember if I asked this on Automators or if this was us talking, but when we were talking about, I think it was Automators, because I was complaining that we couldn't set playback destination to multiple HomePods. And if you do use Control Home and then set specific sounds to come out, or specific music for that, it will pair those accessories and create a group, which is awesome. So you could use just the Home app and those different automations and things like that to set up those pairs and just select audio and play it at a certain time. But in shortcuts, you can have a manually triggerable version and the whole variety of rooms, which is awesome. So you can just go in and have, I have a HomePod Mini in my office and the kitchen. I don't know why I would pair those two at the same time, but usually it's I have two in the other rooms, and then I want to have just that room downstairs, and I can create my whole trigger phrase there. So yeah, that's awesome. I do think you'd probably have to find an alternative to the specific Apple ambient sounds that are available, but this is also something that Apple should add and make it available for shortcuts users through the HomePod stuff, because that is a really nice, all those sounds are very well done, and you're not going to just be requesting some random song or something like that. I'll say I guess I can't remember if it's on Apple Music, but the app that I like, Endel, does have playlists of some of their music. And so you could just trigger something like that. So definitely look through Apple Music for something, and then you could have that set up and also set the volume low at the same time. So hopefully that helps, Steve. Not from Mercury.
Not from Mercury, darn it. Alas, from Maine. All right. The next one comes from Lars, who writes, I want to be able to have a physical switch on the wall that plays my favorite radio station on my HomePod. The problem is the HomePod can only play radio stations that are in the TuneIn database. That's what Apple is using. My station is not covered. So I have configured my Aquara switch to trigger a virtual switch on my NAS, my network attached storage, using Homebridge. This device runs an SSH command on my iMac, which in turn runs an Apple script starting a playlist in Apple Music. It also airplays it to the HomePod. The playlist has only the URL of the station. This works very well, but from pressing the Aquara switch until the station plays takes 15 to 20 seconds. Is there an easier way that would be faster to do this? Thanks for any help or idea. Take care, Lars. Wow. First of all, I think you deserve an Automator prize. Certainly bonus points in my heart, Lars, for figuring out how to do this in a way that works for you. But maybe Matthew has an answer?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Is like, that's already a pretty solid solution. Like, he has something that for sure works. And I think that's always what's a challenge is you might be able to get something that's kind of close. I do think the part about it, I'd have to double check because I was thinking of the Broadcast app by Steve Troughton Smith that has the ability to load radio stations into the URLs, but I'm just now realizing that I don't think that's going to be able to set it back onto the HomePod because that's not triggerable through the home automations portion there. So this is unfortunately not something that's immediately solved. That's another solution if you are trying to get custom radio stations on iOS. Like, you could, maybe not specifically through that trigger, but you could have a shortcut or NFC tag type situation that then could play it. And even you could make the home pairing with the control home action and all that too, and then cast it to those devices using this shortcut. But I don't think through the HomeKit product itself you could just yet. But I hope this kind of stuff, I really hope that we could be able to trigger shortcuts through home automations and have those available. But that currently does run locally on your device as opposed to on the HomePod and through your home hub situation. So shortcuts for the HomePod, the home hub would be the feature that we need enable to have that. So I do think, I have wanted to answer this because his solution was awesome. Like, I do think Federico Viticci had a similar thing where you can make SSH commands in shortcuts to your Mac, and then he had the same type of thing where it could play on Apple Music, pick a playlist, and then it would set the Mac to AirPlay to that HomePod, which is clever. But Aquara switch is how Lars does it.
Again, very clever there, Lars. And I wish that there was a faster way, but I think that you've figured out how it has to be done for now. And hopefully, in the future, things will get faster. But for now, I think you've cracked it. Of course, any listeners out there who also do their own automations, if you have a faster way from Lars, let us know.
Yeah, definitely. These are great questions.
What's the next one?
Yes, this is from Dan. And so he was talking about how last week we were talking about the Sensibo getting the HomeKit support. And he was saying, have you had any experience with AmbiClimate? So he had an issue years ago where he tried the Sensibo that lost some of the functions of the AC. I think this is honestly, I was like, all of these stories are tying together because Google is having that quality control of you can't just drop support for things that people actually need in the air conditioner. And so his has it, but it won't let him set it. And he's like, I understand you wouldn't have any way of knowing AmbiClimate, but it's worth mentioning too. And I happened to find an article that compared them, and it looks like it can control it. I think the limitation is that it doesn't have any HomeKit support. So that was the big reason the Sensibo thing is interesting, because it did add that there. But again, that sounds like Google's side can have that quality control, and then Apple's is like, oh yeah, we added HomeKit kinda with these products. So HomeKit kinda is like that totally is
hashtag HomeKit kinda.
A decent amount of smart home stuff that is like kind of supporting it. So it counted at least. But yeah, Ambient Climate is another, it looks like another solid smart AC control solution, especially if you have Google or Amazon as your main backend for your smart home stuff.
Mm-hmm. The next one comes from Jim, who writes in, is there a way to integrate my two MyQ garage door openers with HomeKit? Yes, Jim, there are two ways that you can do this. So one way is, and it's going to depend on what you mean when you say you have MyQ garage door openers, because if you mean that the garage door opener itself, like the motor, the whole kit and caboodle is a MyQ system that you connect to, then that means one thing, versus if you mean you have a system like the MyQ smart garage control from Chamberlain, which is a whole different thing, those will make a difference on what the answer is. So I'm going to kind of answer all of them. If you have a MyQ garage door opener, you can buy a bridge that essentially adds HomeKit support to your system. So,
it's called HomeBridge, which I think is
which is
so
funny.
Confusing because there's tons of other things called HomeBridge also, but
it's also incredibly expensive, the device itself, and it's not just to have that one device have HomeKit support is kind of ridiculous. So what I recommend instead is, unless you have an issue, unless you have trouble with coding, or you just kind of want a one size fits all solution, or not one size, but specifically fits this solution, then definitely go for this MyQ Home Bridge, because that will give you HomeKit support. But what I've done is my non-MyQ garage door opener, like the motor is not MyQ. I've added the smart garage control system, MyQ smart garage control system, to it, which makes it smart. But then with that, it is connected to my HomeKit setup through HomeBridge, not the Home Space Bridge, but HomeBridge, which is it's very confusing. We'll include links, but through HomeBridge, which I've got connected via a Raspberry Pi. That lets me control my garage door opener as well as multiple other things. So if you've got multiple non-HomeKit devices in your home that you want to make HomeKit enabled, then you might be better off, Jim, going for the HomeKit product versus going for the MyQ Home Bridge, which again is kind of confusing. But
you don't want HomeBridge, you want HomeBridge.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Sorry, Jim, but
I'm trying to figure out if I bought my dad a MyQ thing that doesn't actually work with HomeKit, and I thought it did because I remember them being on sale, and they have the MyQ Smart Garage Hub from Chamberlain. So
I'd have to see what it looks like. Can you send it to me?
Sure. Hold on a second. From Best Buy. Here, I will put it in the dock in the same spot.
All right. Perfect. Opening now.
It was only $30, so I feel the other one that you mentioned is $70.
It's not HomeKit on its own. This is the one that I have right now in my garage. And so on its own, it's not HomeKit. But the funny thing is, you can get this $30 thing, and then you can buy the Home Bridge, Home Space Bridge from Chamberlain, and then it can become HomeKit enabled. Mm-hmm. But spending like $100 on a thing that all it does is add HomeKit support is ridiculous. And especially whenever you can get a Raspberry Pi for less money and get the HomeBridge system for free and then use it with this $30 thing. But again, you're paying for convenience in that case. I feel that Chamberlain is being not great by charging so much money for it. I don't know why it costs as much as it does. There's no reason that I can see that it would need to cost as much as it does. That's what bothers me.
Don't hubs usually cost like $60 or something or more? Like they just...
But some of them make sense. Some of them make sense because some of them are translating one type of signal into another. But this is just acting as a Wi-Fi bridge to a device that on its own already supports Wi-Fi. So it's like a middleman, and that's what I have trouble with. I don't approve. Is what I'm saying. Just make it $100, and it does it all.
Yeah.
Don't make me buy an extra nubbin to install next to the nubbin that's already there to access HomeKit. Just remake the MyQ Smart Garage Hub with HomeKit support and charge me $100.
Yeah. I thought these used to all I was going to say the whole garage, all-in-one setups used to be like $200. And so I think now it's a lot more modular and can just be the thing that you attach, and then that part is really just a sensor, and then the other part is all connected. So I'm not sure. It's it's basically just like they should sell these as a bundle for $100 and not make them
that would be okay
products. Too. But I guess if you have multiple garages, at that point I have no sympathy for your problems. So I'm just kidding.
He's not kidding. Let us move along to our picks of the week up next. All right, picks of the week. And while Matthew tells us about his, I forgot to grab mine, so I'm going to step away and grab mine. So Matthew, what is your pick of the week?
Sure. So this is an app that's called Soro, and it's pretty much purely so that you could add shortcuts and Siri support to Sonos smart speakers. So they've got a whole set of shortcuts actions where you can do a bunch of interesting things. Even one, again, referencing stuff that we were talking earlier on the show, is you can load a URL to a Sonos room or group, which is cool. So if you have one to a custom radio station like they were asking before, you could set that up and cast it across any combination of your speakers. And so I love this kind of stuff. I don't get why apps like Sonos just don't do this themselves. They're missing out there, but it's pretty interesting. Set volume, group, ungroup speakers, play, pause, unmute, shuffle, all that. So I like the part about being able to group and ungroup them, because that is I guess now we have it figured out through HomeKit too. So that is pretty solid, because that kind of stuff can just be, it's like we have it, or you can do it with your voice, but it's not smart enough in order to get it all set up yet. So you can have a whole combination of shortcuts on the home screen, or I've been building mine with lots of menus lately, and I think that'd be good for this kind of thing of just like, think of any combination of your Sonos speakers that you could have, set them up in here, and then you can just trigger them right away. It's great. Is Micah, did he go get his? Oh, there you are.
I did. I caught the end of that. Soro. How much is it in the App Store?
I think it's free. I might still have the test flight, but I can put it in the show notes too.
Yeah, please put the link in the show notes, and that way we can.
$6.
$6.
Still, that's worth it. Oh yeah, I do have the test flight. That's why. But always good to support indie developers like this, especially when it's just not at all available otherwise, because these kind of things make a huge difference in expanding shortcut support. And I think a lot of people just don't realize that it's possible, that it's like these companies, when they just don't do it, some indie developer can usually build something, especially because they have a whole API system built into it. So they can just make their own, and then tons of people can use Sonos with Siri. So pretty cool. $6 on the App Store.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty nifty app there that probably a lot of people who listen to this podcast will be taking advantage of if they are, because I imagine that many of them are Sonos users. My pick of the week, I'm once again talking about charging, and today... Dun, 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 dun. I'm talking about the Belkin Boost Up Charge Pro 3-in-1 wireless charger with MagSafe Black. That's the name of this one. Available, again, very pricey, $140. But with it, you get 3 different charging zones. The base of it here has a charge spot for your AirPods or some other wireless charging normal Qi wireless charging. The little puck here is for the Apple Watch, which I will put on there to show. And then the large puck is for the iPhone, which MagSafes onto the device. And so there it is now, except for AirPods, which I have not put on here. This is, I believe that's it's steel in the middle, which is really nice. I got the black one because it doesn't stand out as much. And then I want to show you, if you look very closely, you can see that I have already covered up the LED lights, LED indicator light, because no lights in my bedroom, thank you.
That's the worst.
There's an LED light. It's very dusty. Sorry, but there's an LED light that will let you know that things are charging, and I don't need to know that things are charging because 2 out of the 3 are magnetic, and so I can just feel that. And then for the third one, I just look for the indicator light on the AirPods case. But if you want to go ahead.
They all indicate when they're being charged at the same. So
precisely, these ones are obviously more tactile. So even without looking, I can feel them click on. There's enough space to where I can take my very large iPhone 12 Pro Max and turn it sideways, which is pretty cool. Nice. But I think that the coolest thing about this, other than having a MagSafe compatible charger, is just that it takes up less space than the charger I had sitting on my bedside table before, because they've taken 2 of the charging things and put them up in the air. So it's not laying right next to each other. It's a pretty hefty device. It does have a proprietary charger, so you don't just plug a USB-C into it. You do have to plug in the special charger that comes with it. But it can do MagSafe charging, so that's up to 15 watts on the iPhone, 5 watts for the Apple Watch, and 5 watts for AirPods. And
so it's actually fast charging on the or not. I guess you can do USB-C, which is more fast charging, but it's the fastest MagSafe.
MagSafe charging you can do. Yeah, it's fully MagSafe compatible, which is why this is not something the Belkin sent to me. I bought it. This is why I bit the bullet on buying this thing, because it's pretty much the best that you can buy in terms of having a multi device charger that supports the latest stuff that Apple has for charging technology. So
I wish
go ahead.
The pucks were black also. That's a little odd that those were white.
That's an Apple
I get it,
requirement, but I agree with you too. I wish that they could make the pucks black, and I've actually considered doing something about that, but the problem is eventually it's going to wear off, and then it would get all over the back of my watch. And I don't want that.
Is the stainless steel also black, or is that just the reflection? I can't really tell.
It's darker. I don't think that it's, I know it's not black, but I do think that they've done it darker than other stainless steel. Wait for it to refocus if it will. I don't know. I can still see my face. Yeah, I can't really show it. But yeah, the stainless steel seems a little bit darker than the white one. And yeah, I'm very, very happy with this. I feel in the end it was worth the price to have now this charger that makes it so easy to pop my devices where they need to go and make sure that they are charging every night. So that is the, again, Belkin Boost Up Charge Pro 3-in-1 wireless charger with MagSafe Black. $140.
Is literally an up arrow. A Unicode sign. So
I was going to say, and it's Unicode, exactly. It's available on Apple's site. I think the white one is exclusive to Apple, but you can buy or it's one or the other. One of them is exclusive to Apple, but you can buy the other one in other places. And then Belkin also makes a Belkin Boost Up Charge Pro 2-in-1 wireless charger that has a spot for your iPhone and AirPods. And I'm thinking about getting one of those for my desk because I love, the thing that I like is the maneuverability of the phone, so that I could put it in horizontal or portrait mode very easily, and that it it's lifted up off the desk more so than my current, the current wireless charging stand that I have on my desk. It's a beautiful, well-designed one from Nomad, called the, I don't see what it's called here, but it's Nomad's charging stand, and it's got this nice leather backing that the phone sits on with the charger inside of that, and it has on the back there we go. It's called the base station stand, and the back of it has an ambient light sensor so that it will turn off the LED in the dark. That's one thing that I wish all companies would implement. So yeah, the only reason I've considered updating or switching from this is to have something that's a little bit higher up off the desk, because this does not quite go up off the desk as much.
Yeah, nice.
But yeah, that's my pick of the week. And now, Matthew, you've got a new verb for us all to learn.
I just thought this was funny that Apple Podcasts is officially going to change from saying subscribe to podcasts to follow it, because it does sort of imply that you have to pay. And so I just put this in here because we have our outro stuff where we say, don't forget to subscribe to the show. So should we change it to don't forget to follow?
Well, I mean, everybody out there knows you have to pay if you listen. No, yeah, don't forget to follow.
Will cost you, but just because you want to buy all of the HomeKit products.
Exactly. All these fun things we talk about. And also because our time is the most valuable thing we have. And so if you choose to use it listening to the show, then you are giving some form of payment. And we appreciate you for doing so. If you've got questions you want answered, you can head to stt@twit.tv. Excuse me, not head to. You can email stt@twit.tv. By doing so, we'll get your questions and try to answer them. And we'd love some follow-up on Lars's question there. Also, you can tune in live every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific by going to twit.tv/live. But the best way to be part of the show is by going to twit.tv/STT and subscribing to the show in both audio and video formats. We are available on so many podcast players and services: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, etc., etc. So we are everywhere you want to be, and we are happy for you to follow the show or subscribe, depending on which verb you choose to use. And Matthew Casanelli, if folks want to follow you online, where do they go to do that?
MatthewCasanelli.com/Siri Shortcuts is where I have my whole shortcuts catalog, and I've got free examples there. And then I am putting out a YouTube video over the weekend explaining how to get started with all that stuff. So check that out. What about you?
You can find me online at Micah Sargent on pretty much all social media networks. And you can also head to chihuahua.coffee, CHIHUAHUA.coffee, where I've got links to many of the places I exist online. All righty, folks. It is time to say good afternoon to all of your smart assistants.
Good afternoon.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Ant Pruitt, and I want to tell you about my show, Hands on Photography, here on Twit TV. Each and every week, Thursday that is, I like to sit down and share with you the best tips and tricks that are going to help make you a better photographer. And it's not always about Photoshop. It's not always about just having the biggest and baddest and bestest camera. It can be the simplest of things, like leave your eye open when you're looking through the viewfinder. All of these simple tips can really help step your photography game up. So subscribe to the show today. That's twit.tv/hop. And I look forward to talking to you soon.